trillion naira by Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and where he has asked the Senate to approve that sum, 1.15. Okay, I'll take that again, where he has asked the Senate to approve 1.15 trillion naira loan from the domestic debt market to close the funding gap in the 59.9 trillion naira 2025 budget, actually. And the request was contained in a letter to Upper Legislative Chamber, which was read during today's plenary by Senate President Godswill Akpabio. And the president explained that the proposed borrowing became necessary following a 5.25 trillion naira increase by the National Assembly in the 2025 budget, which expanded the spending plan from 49.74 trillion naira to 59.9 trillion naira, thereby creating an unfunded deficit of about 1.947 trillion naira. So you talk about deficit budgeting, deficit spending there. And here we are. And the president said this request is in line with Section 44, subsection 1 and 2 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007, which mandates the National Assembly approval for all new government borrowings. Now, the issue is not just the borrowing for many Nigerians. The issue is, how come the government has found it so convenient to just borrow, And Nigerians are a bit confused because a few months ago, even right here on this program, we read it where the president, in praising what he has done, and some of his supporters and handlers of the government, with big vuvuzela, shouted at the time that Nigeria is clean of domestic debt. And you think, okay, maybe we are heading somewhere. All of a sudden, the president is seeking 1.15 trillion naira loan right now, from domestic market to raise that amount of money, even when we are no more paying subsidy again. At least technically, that's what we have been told. How come we are still borrowing? We learned the debt burden on Nigeria right now is around 152 trillion naira. Although the debt management office have said, everything is clean. We are still clean as far as our borrowing slate is concerned. We have not jumped the 40% threshold, even after rebasing. These are the ages. We speak with, somebody who should know, an investment banker and analyst, Mr. Joshua Asheda. He joins us virtually. Thank you, Mr. Asheda, for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, your president, my president, Nigeria's president, has written to the National Assembly to say, guys, we have to borrow to fund the deficit that we now have to the tune of 1.15 trillion naira. And you could be well assured, this is Nigeria, at least in our recent history, that approval is just, it's all we say is just to fulfill our righteousness. It will be approved because there is nothing that has been taken by the executive to the National Assembly that has been rejected, even scrutinized, a bit. This is where we are right now. And Nigerians are saying, excuse us, what is going on here? I'd like to ask you, what do you think is going on?
Well, we have to be factual about these things.
Yes.
And not be emotional about what we are saying. Okay, so the governments all over the world had to borrow. Please excuse the noise. The government around the world has to borrow to finance their operations, which is which is outlined in the budget. Now, sometimes the government also have to do these things in order to be able to. It's another way of being able to balance the economy. Perhaps you have so much money in circulation, and then the government will put that up to be able to mop up some money from the circulations to reduce inflationary pressure. That's when we're talking about a classic definition of inflation, where you have more money chasing fewer goods. But that's not the case in Nigeria. The inflation in Nigeria is driven by high costs of cost of production. So technically speaking, the government in Nigeria is trying to do borrow in order to be able to finance their operations. So now the question really to ask again, because like we have said before, there is no technically, optimized level of borrowing. If you want to benchmark it to your you want to benchmark it to let's say, for example, you want to benchmark it to GDP. For as far as I'm concerned, by definition, that is not right. But maybe you want to benchmark it against your revenue. Okay, so but whichever way it is, what we're really saying is that, look, there is really no standard except you are the one that say, okay, this is our threshold, this is where we should not go beyond. But other than that, I think the right question to be asking is what you are doing with the money that you are borrowing. So unfortunately, we don't have the National Assembly, the Senate, they're supposed to ask that questions, are not asking that questions. So as long as they're not asking that questions, we're going to be where we are. So that the problem really is that we have a National Assembly that is essentially a rubber stamp of the executive, and until we deal with that, we will not be able to get the right answers to the questions. But as far as we are standing as professionals in this field, it's not the question of how much you are borrowing or that you are borrowing more. It is really a question of what you're using the funds for.
Right. Talking about the GDP, debt to GDP ratio, maybe for metrics and all of those things, we learned, it's some have quoted, in 2024, a lower figure of 39.4% after a recent GDP rebasing in Q1 of 2025. But safely to say, because when analysts like yourself speak, the debt management office as well, I've always used that as a baseline to talk about 40%, that's talking about debt to GDP and all of those things. But now, it's not even about that for many Nigerians. The thing is, they feel all these borrowings that are being borrowed, and you made mention of that yourself, what is the equivalent benefit for the Nigerian state and for the Nigerian people? Beyond, financing the deficit in the budget and all of those technical terms, how has this helped the Nigerians? Because Nigerians will say the best that we've seen is that the rich, the people in government, have continued with their ostentatious lifestyle, the life of affluence that they have always been known to, and we keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. Knowing fully well, I said it, and it's in public domain, the president, while talking about his economic priorities and what he has been able to do to galvanize the economy and all of those things, have said Nigeria is clean of domestic debt. All of a sudden, 1 or 2 months after, he wants to go into the domestic market to borrow again. Who is deceiving who here?
In my first submission, I actually mentioned that sometimes, you will go into the domestic market to borrow, sometimes not necessarily because the government really needs the money, so but because you want to stabilize the economy, I also mentioned the fact that the reason for it is to control inflation, control the amount of money that is in circulation. Now, this might not be the case here.
Yeah, because they are talking about financing the deficit in the budget.
Yes. No, of course. If you borrow some money, even when you are looking at the case of trying to manage a macroeconomy with the borrowings that you're doing, you have to have somewhere to put the money. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But my question, I think the problem that we are having here in Nigeria is, number one, we don't have enough communication from this government, or most governments in the country that we have had in the time past. The Minister of Finance ought to be talking to us over time, even before this borrowing will take place, in same company, in same organizations, same environment, or let me put it, let's not say sane. If they say that, they are saying that we are insane here. No, so let's say, in other climes where things are more organized, what you will have is that you will have the government engaging, talking about this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is what we are looking at as a form of solution to it. We have to mop up excess cash in the economy, excess liquidity in the economy, and we have to do it by borrowing. Okay, so that's a way to do it. That's a way to do it. But we have not had that. And then again, you will say, okay, we want to borrow. Borrowing is not the only, domestic borrowing is not the only way that you can mop up excess liquidity in the system. You can also increase, which is what they have done in over the past 2-3 years, to increase astronomically, the interest rate, so that people can bring their money into the banking system to be able to take advantage of increased interest rate. You understand? And then of course the borrowing also does that, because it's giving you high interest rate. Of late, you have the treasury bills, the return on treasury bills is far higher than what it used to be. It's double figures now. Before it used to be single figure, because it's a sure thing that the government will definitely pay back. You understand? We use that as to benchmark investments. Now, this morning, I have to be frank with you, I'm working this morning, and that is why I am dressed like this. And I've been awake since since early in the day, and we work late. And to be very frank with you, we're looking at the economy and what the outlook will be for the next 5 years, to 2030. That's what is right in front of me right now. So I can tell you that this is what we're working on right now. I can tell you that, look, the future is not looking so bright. We're trying to package it in a way that will look nice, but it's not really looking nice of course. All right, Mr. Ashada. Yes, because of course, the factors that we have to put into place to ensure that these things happen, that we have a better future. You understand? Right. Those factors are not in place. For example, infrastructure. You understand? And the environment of doing business, and the encouragement for private investments. These are things that are not. They are the things that needed to be there in order to have improved economy. As far as the borrowing is concerned, whatever the government is doing, they have to put these funds into these areas to ensure that you have you create the environment for businesses and investments to thrive. Now that is not happening until that begins to happen. Where there's we cannot say we are seeing the end of all of this darkness. But however, with the borrowing, let them tell us. And that's the disappointing thing that we are having, with the Senate, because the Senate is representative of the people. They are supposed to ask these hard questions.
All right. Now, a simple search, just trying to have figures and statistics, will show you that as of June 30, 2025, Nigeria's total public debt burden stood at 152.40 trillion naira. 152.40 trillion naira. As of June 30, that should be about 3 months ago or thereabout. Now, 4 months ago rather, approximately $99.66 billion, almost $100 billion, right? This is the latest official figure released by the Debt Management Office in October 2025. So last month, by the way, June 30, that marks the end of the second quarter of the year. So it was released in October, 152.40 trillion, almost $100 billion. This figure represents an increase of 3.01 trillion naira a 2.01% rise from the 149.39 trillion naira recorded at the end of March 2025. So the rise is partly attributed to new borrowings to cover fiscal deficit and the impact of the naira's depreciation and the value of existing external debt. Now, here is a breakdown, Mr. Shedan, for the people watching us. The breakdown of the debt as of June 30, 2025, that second quarter, is as follows. External debt, $46.98 billion. Domestic debt, 80.55 trillion naira. Of course, that can only be said in quantified in naira because we are talking about domestic debt here. But for the external debt, $46.98 billion, totally 71.85 trillion naira. And the federal government share, 141.08 trillion naira, because we are talking about the federal government share and the state government as well borrowing. So out of this, the federal government has borrowed 92.6% of the total. And here we are with the debt to GDP ratio and all of those things. The question now, with all of these statistics, Mr. Sheda, is, should Nigerians be worried?
Yeah.
Should Nigerians be worried about this debt spree? That's another question. Now that this is the debt burden domestically, debt burden, abroad and all of those things. And with this 1.15 trillion naira, that you could be as sure as death that it will be passed. Should Nigerians be worried, or you feel we are still within the threshold?
Now, you see, I actually mentioned earlier in my first submission that the threshold that we're talking about is not so much of a like a standard thing, how do I even put it? It depends on your strategy. Do you understand? It is possible for you to say, okay, you know what? I'm not saying that's the right thing to do for a government.
Right.
But for an organization, you could say, we want to do 90%. You understand? Debt to revenue. Or you want to even put your revenue your debt to revenue or yours to over 100%. So it depends. When you now have a negative working capital, you understand? It depends. You can decide that, okay, I'm not going to do beyond 30% or 20%. You are at the discretion, which is based upon the strategy that you are adopting. Now, if you are using a tight, we call it high leverage or being highly geared, you are trying to ensure that that your business you have a tight. In order to be able to do that, you also have a very tight management in place. The tight financial management in place. It's something that you do to put your people on the edge to get them to be more productive. Now, that is usually the case in the case where you have a highly geared, investment, highly geared, organizations. So that is just by the way. However, in the case of Nigeria, again, or a government, the government can decide that what we're going to do it this way, get more loan to get more credit to be able to do our work. It's just like saying using other people's money to do your business. Again, we mentioned America. America is one of the highly geared countries in the world. So. And but they have the best economy in the world, the very best economy in the world. Okay, so China is next to them, but China do not carry as much debt burden. So it depends on how you want to run it. So it is possible for Nigeria to get to where we're going, carrying more loans, carrying more debts. It is possible for us to get to where we're going, carrying less debt. The most important thing to do is that you apply the right strategy to what you're doing and you communicate. When my uncle used to teach me how to drive, he used to say to me that when you are driving, the people in the car must be comfortable. It's not just about what you are doing, but when the people inside the car is not comfortable, with your driving, then you are not driving right.
I love your analogy, Mr. Asheda, because that is the basis of my question, to say the analysts like yourself, investment analysts, economists, you know these terms. The average Nigerians just want to know, am I in trouble? Are my children unborn in trouble? That's what they want to know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I use the analogy. They need to make Nigerian people comfortable. And you know, again, this rubs off on so many other parts of our system. For example, our electoral system. So supposing, you know, in America, the American people are not comfortable with the economy, you understand, of their country. You understand, based on the policies of the government. The next election cycle, that party in government is definitely going to lose. You understand? But in Nigeria, that is not the case. We cannot say that the vote of the Nigerian people actually counts. You know, so if our vote counts, and I'm speaking with the second part of my mouth, because I usually say that Nigerian votes count. By statistics, it counts. Do you understand? But our people are not. The question, the most important thing is that our people are not holding them accountable. Okay, you did not run the economy very well the last time out. The next election, they vote for them again. Do you understand?
Right.
And that's where the term comes in, you know, weaponized, you know, poverty. Because when the next election cycle comes around, they spread a few naira around, a few bags of rice, and people forget what the real issue is. And after the election is over, they voted them in power again. We continue to complain. Right. So I think what we really need to do as a people, this is all of our problems. You know, we have to hold the government accountable. We have to hold them accountable. They are not running the government well. Let's hold them accountable. Next election. Okay, so these are things that we have to do. It's because we are not holding them accountable. Maybe, you know, I'm looking at the figures and the reforms that they are trying, that they are put in place. I'm looking at the trend. I'm looking at the data, and I can see that, okay, there seems to be some measure of stability. For example, with the exchange rate, which is a function of what they were doing, some of the policies that they put in place. And you can also see that, you know, Naira is strengthening over time since January. So these are real stuff. Yeah. But is that enough? No, it's not enough. We really need to do more. I think the most important thing is that the government must learn to communicate.
Communicate, all right.
That's the problem. Communicate, and then our people must learn to hold the government accountable.
Accountable, just like we are doing right now. Trust us to do all of that, because people deserve to know. And of course, the fourth estate of the media, like us journalists, hold our constitutional responsibility to hold people to account and to interrogate this, because the Senate, you know, they have a constitutional responsibility to scrutinize, to challenge, to even hold back, to say no. But the current representatives at the national level, the red and the green chamber, you know, it's more or less like on the social media space, when you hear young people say, God, I beg, that's the level in which many of them, they are right now. And let me take this as your part in short. And John, I remember during the administration of Muhammadu Buhari, every borrowings that was done, every application that was granted, especially under Mr. Lawan, Dr. Ahmed Lawan, the Senate president then. In fact, there was a time in which we were told that he said anything that Buhari brings, he will get. That was the way we were told that everything is fine, no problem, no cause for alarm. First time, 4 years, no cause for alarm. We are safe, we are fine, we are within the threshold. 8 years of huge borrowing, and of course, transited from one APC government to the other, and all of a sudden, the people in power now are saying, oh, Buhari borrowed us into problem. He laid a very terrible foundation. He did all of those, and now the borrowings have started, Mr. Asheda, and we are being told to calm down. You're a pessimist. Oh, you are not patriotic. Why are you shouting? In fact, under Buhari, many persons who talked at that time were called wailers. Many of them are wailing right now. What exactly should Nigerians be calm Or what exactly can they do beyond what we are doing right now in 1 minute?
You know, what we can do basically is that we have to hold the government accountable. Okay, we have to demand to know. The Senate must tell us what are they using.
When they are not doing that, what can we do? They are not doing that.
Bro, the alternative will be what Shore is doing. Go to the street. Now, and I'm not going to say, okay, please go to the street. No. So, but that's the what the government is pushing Nigeria to do is exactly that. So if you keep on taking them for granted, then at some point they are going to react. And I don't think that is good for anybody. As far as the economy is concerned, as far as investment climate is concerned, chaotic situation, unrest, rioting does not help business. It does not help anybody. Right. Exactly. Now, as a parting shot, I would say, look, the insecurity in Nigeria has always been an issue that's been raised over time. Now, suddenly, the president of the United States of America is asking us questions concerning that. I don't think the Nigerian government should wait until somebody from outside, or until our people rise up in arms against them before they begin to provide the right answers.
All right, we hope it doesn't get to that level, but we keep talking. We shall, and of course we won't shy away from calling out whoever is necessary. This nation belongs to all of us, and it must, fly. Thank you very much, investment banker and analyst, Mr. Jose Asheda. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir. My pleasure.
Yeah, that's it. If the Senate, if the House of Reps will not do the needful, because when they talk about scrutiny, now this application has been sent to, I think, the Committee of the Whole or something to look into the matter, or the necessary committee to scrutinize. But the question is, the word scrutinize. Do anybody scrutinize anything, especially at the National Assembly? Your guess is as good as mine. We take a quick break right now. When we return, the issue of U.S. invading Nigeria, on the heels of the allegation of persecution of Christians and killings and genocide against Christians in Nigeria, is now gaining a global diplomatic angle. China has responded. EU has spoken. ECOWAS has spoken on this matter. But what are you saying? Stay with me.